board, and seeing it looks good to go. I will go ahead and call to order the Board of Supervisors regular meeting for Tuesday, February 6, 2024. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and we will go to the manager for announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to members of the board, staff, and the public for joining us this evening for this February 6, 2024 regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors. This meeting has been properly advertised in accordance with the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act as a hybrid meeting with the option to attend virtually and in person here in the main meeting room. If you are in attendance virtually using the Zoom platform and wish to speak on behalf of an agenda item, please say your name, municipality of residence, and the item you wish to speak on when the chairwoman calls on you. If you are attending in person with us in the main meeting room and wish to speak on behalf of an agenda item, please address the board at the podium and state your name, municipality of residence, and the topic you wish to speak on. Prior to commencing the meeting, I have just a few short procedural items to cover. First, members of the public attending using the Zoom platform are asked to remain muted to prevent any ambient noise from disrupting the meeting. If a member of the public is acknowledged by the chair, they may unmute their microphone for their question or comment. Secondly, board members are asked to indicate their name when motioning or seconding a motion so that the minutes may accurately reflect the action taken. And finally, a roll call of the Board of Supervisors will now be taken to ensure that all members can hear and interact using the Zoom meeting platform. Please indicate that you are here when your name is called. Ms. Strickland? Here. Ms. Stevens?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
Mr. Heller?
Here.
Mr. Patterson?
Here.
Thank you. Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you. And first, we have two proclamations this evening, and we'll begin with a proclamation of the Township of Ferguson, Center County, Pennsylvania, to recognize February as Black History Month. I'd invite Ms. Leslie Lang to the podium if you'd like to come up and share any comments before I read the proclamation and any guests you have. And yes, please come on up.
Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to come before the Board of Supervisors in Ferguson Township and the manager. This is our second year coming before you. My name is Leslie Lang, and I am a Ferguson Township resident for 17 years. I serve the community as a director for adult learner programs at Pennsylvania State University, and I'm the Forum on Black Affairs 2023 humanitarian, and I'm the chair of the Juneteenth Planning Committee for all of State College. It gives me great pleasure to be back before you today to talk to the township and to remind you and to thank you for acknowledging the contributions and accomplishments of African Americans with the official proclamation for Black History Month. Last year, we spoke of notable firsts and politics and commerce, and this year's theme is the arts. And so I'd like to just share three little notables. As you mentioned, or will mention in the proclamation this year, Carter G. Woodson is the notable historian and educator who is the foundation for the traditional celebration since 1976. What many do not know about Carter G. Woodson is that he was born to former slaves. He was the second African American to earn a doctoral degree from Harvard University and served as the dean of Howard University. He felt white-dominated professions showed very little interest in Black history, and so Black history was often overlooked, ignored, and suppressed by the writers of textbooks. So Carter G. Woodson and his foundation, he began a scholarly journal of Negro history. Now in the 2nd century, this award-winning journal is published under the Journal of African American History. Locally, Penn State's librarian Racine Amos launched an idea that became a collective public history and the arts initiative that was called the Black History of Center County Project in 2019. And she was hoping to open people's eyes and the contributions that are being made right here in central Pennsylvania. one of our graduate students, not one with us tonight, she was going to come, Carmen Wong, wrote a play based on local history and was performed in Bellefonte in April 2023. The arts continues to thrive here locally. Dr. Anthony Leach is a world-renowned music conductor. He's a retired professor for music education at Penn State and the founder of Essence of Joy and Essence 2, and the founder of the African American Musical Festival, running now February 7th through the 10th, and it's free. Performances feature guest artists, students, faculty members, and a variety of performances and panels throughout the week that will showcase various music traditions of African American composers. It takes place on Penn State campus, so right in your backyard, with the School of Music at the recital hall. The schedule's online, and it's free to you. So please come on out. And of course, the arts always includes literature and fashion and folklore and language and film and music and many, many more forms of African American cultural expression. With me tonight, in the tradition of Carter G. Woodson, I have brought two Pennsylvania State graduate students to share their thoughts on Black history.
Hello, everyone. How we doing tonight? Good. My name is Folan Allen. I am a writer and literary scholar. I am currently a PhD student in English literature and African American and diaspora studies at Penn State. I'm very honored to share this night with you, especially with my lovely companions, Leslie Lang and Kesla Elmore, as Ferguson Township makes an official proclamation of Black History Month today. It's been nearly a century since Carter G. Woodson brought us Negro History Week in 1926, the precursor to our famed Black History Month, in which we celebrate the cultural contributions and innovations of African Americans, as well as honor the trailblazers and dreamers that shaped the lives we enjoy today. As I stand here, I am brought to this quote by civil rights and children's rights activist Marion Wright Edelman: "You can't be what you can't see." And isn't that what Black History Month is all about? A time to reflect on those who have made such an incredible contribution to American life, to global culture, to human ingenuity. A time to reflect on the brave and bold Black pioneers who envisioned and fought for a better world. A time to see these icons in all their shining beauty and wonder. I can tell you that Black History Month gave me my first glimpses of myself. I can tell you that my second grade librarian, Mr. Valentine, back in Dallas, Texas, dressing me up as Langston Hughes in a suave tweed jacket and large spectacles for our school's annual Black History Month video led to me being a writer and scholar today. That the crinkled library pages of those same libraries, which held the transformative writings of James Baldwin, Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, and Octavia Butler, gave me the mirror I need to know I was capable of creating entire new worlds and touching lives with the written word. Black history is a legacy of courage, of love, of passion, and community. And as we proclaim Black History Month today here in Ferguson Township, may we remember the ways in which Black people have and continue to shape this world and each art and our lives for the better. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kesla Elmore, and I am also a dual title doctoral candidate in English literature and African American and diaspora studies at Penn State University. I am so honored to be gathered here with you all this evening for the proclamation of Black History Month here in Ferguson Township. I grew up in a small suburb of Baltimore called Bel Air, Maryland. If anybody's familiar, probably not. A place where I so often, as a young and impressionable little Black girl, remained the only Black student in my primary school classes for many, many years. Furthermore, I spent the beginning of my elementary school years under behavioral surveillance, having a checklist sent home to my parents informing them of the kind of day I had had. Things like, Kesla was talkative today, Kesla was asking too many questions, etc. And I had become known for my vivacious personality. I also spent time on what was called the island, which was a desk separated from the remaining rows formed in the middle of the room, isolated from my peers for asking too many questions and interrupting the lesson. This isolation made me feel even more dissimilar to my classmates and silenced me intellectually and spiritually. and I entered community college as a freshman timidly and unsure of my own academic skills. I did not have a Black teacher or professor until my sophomore year of undergraduate classes. That same semester of college, I was introduced to Toni Morrison's 1970 debut novel, The Bluest Eye, which has found its way to the 2023 banned book list here in the state of Pennsylvania. Morrison's novel explores the interior lives of a small Black community in Lorain, Ohio, and it's told through the perception of a little Black girl named Claudia. The character of Claudia is bold. She's boisterous, she's audacious, and she's inquisitive, much like I was as a little girl. And for one of the first times in my academic life, I truly saw myself and my childhood through literature that was assigned to me in school. I then fell in love with Morrison's writing, along with many other Black women writers in the 20th century, and now conduct research as a literary scholar in training, tracing representations of Black girlhood through literature, film, and print media from the Great Migration to the 21st century. The teaching of Black history is crucial to the livelihood of mankind and to the future success of this country. Educators, community leaders, we must teach more Black writers. We must demand that Black literature be taught and celebrated in our schools and in our communities. We need Black artists, we need Black teachers and Black thinkers, and Black writing is central to the establishment and evolution of Black liberation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for giving us this audience. Thank you very much for listening to our stories. And we want to leave you to remember that never underestimate the power of education. We heard about poems and things that are being banned or wanting to be put on banned lists. We need our supervisors to champion with us and advocate so that everyone has the freedom to read. I think Folan just said, if we can't see it, how can we be it? So these are successful examples. The Black arts movement of the 60s and the 70s was successful in its activism in establishing Black publishing houses, magazines, journals, art institutions, and it led to creation of African American studies, which both of these young and up-and-coming doctoral students are a part of. So we must keep the movement in motion and continue recognizing the value, the accomplishments, and the contributions of our rich Black history. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What moving comments. I really am so thankful that you came tonight and shared that. I'm going to go ahead and read the proclamation at this time. And this is a proclamation of the Township of Ferguson, Center County, Pennsylvania, to recognize February as Black History Month. Whereas Ferguson Township is committed to the celebration of diversity and to fostering an inclusive and welcoming community for all citizens, and whereas Black History Month is celebrated each year to recognize the struggles and gross injustices faced by African Americans throughout history, and to honor their achievements and economic, cultural, spiritual, scientific, legal, and political contributions to this country. And whereas the celebration of Black History Month started in 1926 from the work of Carter G. Woodson, a noted African American historian, scholar, educator, and publisher, and whereas social justice has historically developed visual and literary arts to capture the spirit and platforms of resistance and to disseminate those messages to audiences outside of mainstream methods. And whereas each year there is an endorsed theme for Black History Month, and the theme for 2024, African Americans in the Arts, highlights the influence Black artists have had on visual and performing arts, as well as literature, fashion, music, film, and much more. And whereas it is important that we recognize the dedication, tenacity, and resilience exhibited by Black Americans to shape the Ferguson Township community for the better. And now, therefore, the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors does hereby designate February 2024 as Black History Month. We call upon public officials, educators, and residents of our township to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities, and recognize the tremendous contributions of the Black and African American community. Proclaimed this day, the 6th day of February 2024. And I will take a motion at this time to adopt the proclamation.
Ms. Omari, so moved.
This is Patty, I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you again so much. I invite you to sit and stay as we read the next proclamation, and we'll take a brief recess after that to take some pictures and say hello.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Okay, and at this time, we will move to our second proclamation of the evening, and this is a proclamation of the Township of Ferguson Center County, Pennsylvania, to recognize the Lunar New Year on February 10th, 2024. I would invite State College Borough Council member Nalini Krishnan Kudi if you would like to come forward, and Judge Hahn, if you would as well like to come forward up to the podium, and any guests you have, if there's any comments you care to share with us this evening.
Good evening. My name is Don Hahn. I am former mayor of State College, currently a magisterial district judge, but today I'm here in my, representing the Asian Pacific Islander Desi American Caucus, or PETA Caucus for short. And on behalf of the caucus, I'd like to thank Ferguson Township and the Board of Supervisors for putting this proclamation on its agenda. As we know, one of America's ongoing superpowers is its higher education. And I think that as a former mayor, I was rather not only proud, but also rather humbled by the fact that so many people are willing to travel halfway across the world in order to be educated in central Pennsylvania. And I think that two of the three largest foreign student groups are the Chinese and the Koreans, both of whom celebrate Lunar New Year. Lunar New Year, of course, this year is February the 10th, when we enter the year of the dragon, which is supposed to be a lucky year. It is a time for family reunion, and it's also, interestingly enough, a birthday for everyone, as according to East Asian culture, everyone gets a year older at Lunar New Year. So it's a combination family reunion and birthday. And my recollection was that the children would bow to the elders, and the elders would graciously return some money to the kids in red purses traditionally. We would frequently have soup. We'd celebrate with soup, with savory rice cakes, and play the game Yut, which is sort of a Korean version of Trouble, except instead of having a dice that you pop in the middle, you throw sticks in the air and see how they land up, which can get rather hazardous depending upon the style of the players, and especially my dad. I do appreciate especially the fact that that this is also an opportunity for discussion, because the next thing is something that I only learned recently, and only after discussing the Lunar New Year. Apparently, during the Japanese occupation of Korea, the Japanese, in an effort to make themselves and their Korean subjects more westernized, tended to suppress the celebration of Lunar New Year in favor of celebrating it on the solar New Year, the westernized New Year. And apparently this is something that was something that some initial South Korean dictators had continued. It was actually only when South Korea became more liberated, more democratic, that there was a popular movement in favor of celebrating the Lunar New Year once again. And I think that this is actually something, despite being 59 years old, this is part of my heritage that I really was not aware of until recently. And I do wish to really thank you for your role in bringing up these discussions. And I think and re-exploring, heritage is lost. Once again, I wish to thank you, Ferguson Township and the Board of Supervisors, for putting this on your agenda.
I just want to thank all of you for having this proclamation. I think it's the second or third year. I don't remember that now. But as one of the founding members of the Tanapita Circle with the other members here, I want to say by this action, as we do this, what we are doing is we are actually saying Lunar New Year is a Center County tradition, right? We are acknowledging that there are children born in State College, in Ferguson Township, in all, here in Pennsylvania that celebrate this. We have, like Judge Han was born in Center County, right? And people like me came from elsewhere. Our kids grew up here. And to all of them, you're saying, this is a Center County tradition, and we're honoring it every year. So with that, I'm going to invite my colleague at work and a Ferguson Township resident to maybe give us a sense of, how it is to celebrate Lunar New Year for her and her children when they were growing up here. So inviting Grace.
I want to give you, say thank you for giving us the opportunity. I came here in State College as a grad student. That was 1989. And I still remember when I first came, and then Chinese people, there were Chinese people, but not very, it was like seen so often now. I still remember people, when they saw me, they would like do the Kung Fu gesture and say, "You Chinese people, Kung Fu," and then that kind of things. And then when I went to Wise Market, I couldn't remember. I thought my English was okay. I was able to manage my daily life until the first time I went to Wise Market and they said, plastic bag or paper bag. So they kept saying that very quickly. I said, "Pardon me, what?" It ended up, they were just asking me what kind of bag that they want to be, want to bag my groceries. So from that experience till today, and then being here, being recognized that Chinese Lunar New Year is part of this place's culture, I'm just so proud of this place, the United States and State College. That's a long way from 1989 to today. It's like me standing here talking to township people about my tradition here. I just want to say thank you. And one thing, there's a lot of traditions, and because China is just as big as United States, so each province has their own culture. But one thing, usually it's across the board, we like to eat fish for Chinese New Year. Fish has a pun. It has two tones. One thing is fish, one is leftover. So we always have fish for our Chinese New Year, lunar, that dinner, New Year's dinner actually. And then everyone just take a very small bite and make sure there's leftover fish there. So that means year after year, there's always abundant blessing that's being carried over to next year, so that we never finish that fish, because we want leftover to be left for the next year. So that is just one of them. And there are like hundreds of this kind of little traditions. So probably you'll see Chinese people serve oranges, because that means good fortune. And then Chinese dumplings that shaped like a Chinese traditional coin. So that all these kind of things, each food that we serve has its own meaning. So the more dumplings you eat, the more yuanbao, that means the coin that you have saved for the next year. So that kind of tradition. So this is our Chinese New Year, Lunar Year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for these comments, for sharing these personal stories. It just is so impactful and helps us to understand what something like this proclamation means to individuals and to all of you. So again, thank you for coming and for sharing. And I will go ahead and read the proclamation. And this is a proclamation of the Township of Ferguson, Center County, Pennsylvania, to recognize the Lunar New Year on February 10th, 2024. Whereas the Lunar New Year originated in China over 4,000 years ago and remains the most widely celebrated holiday throughout many Asian and Pacific Islander cultures, and whereas the first day of the new year in 2024 falls on Saturday, February 10th, marking the beginning of 2 weeks of celebrations, and whereas the Chinese zodiac is a cycle of 12 animal signs, with 2024 being celebrated as the Year of the Dragon, and whereas the Lunar New Year revolves around celebrations of family, food, culture, and traditions that have been passed down for many generations, and whereas Ferguson Township is comprised of a diverse population of residents, business owners, and students of Asian and Pacific Islander descent who are valued members of the community, and whereas Ferguson Township embraces the celebration of diverse cultures and promotes understanding and respect for all individuals who celebrate this significant occasion. Now therefore, the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors does hereby proclaim February 10th, 2024 as the Lunar New Year in Ferguson Township, and wishes all individuals from the community and around the world who observe this holiday a very happy and prosperous New Year, proclaimed the 6th day of February, 2024. And I'll take a motion to adopt the proclamation.
This is Patty, so moved.
Is there a second?
This is Matt, I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no? Thank you. Thank you again. And we're going to go ahead and take a 10-minute recess at this point to greet our guests and allow them to leave if they wish. So thank you. Back in about 10 minutes. this. Hey, so if,
Get those two guys.
alrighty, so
Oh, sorry.
we all set? Okay, if the board is all set and staff is ready and CNET is ready to go, I will call us back to order, and our next item on the agenda is public input. And this is an opportunity for anyone to comment on any item not on this evening's agenda. I don't see anybody in the room, and I see one hand raised online. And I think that that is Mr. Keogh. If you would like to unmute yourself.
You hear me?
Yes.
Perfectly.
Just to let you know, I am on Zoom for this meeting, and the audio coming through Zoom is almost ununderstandable. Even Chair Strickland, who normally is easily understood on the Zoom, even your sound coming from the mics is not easily understood. Has the township changed something?
Yeah, thank you for letting us know. We did transfer over to our WebEx for this evening's meeting for the first time. So we'll go ahead and check with our recording secretary on there with Rhonda and see if she's able to hear.
Yes, this is Rhonda. What I am on WebEx, it is very, very good.
Thank you.
Better than it
Okay.
ever has been.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so Bill, I'm not sure how to.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know
but-
how to get on whatever she's on.
If you look at the evening's agenda, there are some instructions and links online for the WebEx sign-in. So I'd encourage you to go look at that, and I can follow up with you after the meeting to walk through that a little bit more, if that would be helpful.
That's fine. I wasn't expecting this change, so I'm not prepared to do some of the gymnastics that are required in order to get on the new system. But I just wanted to let you know, I'm just on Zoom, and it's very unintelligible.
Thanks. Yeah, again, so for this evening, I encourage you to go back to the agenda and follow through with those links, and I can follow up with you after. Yes, Mr. Thompson.
I was going to say, in the meantime, my understanding, the meeting is being streamed on YouTube and is also available on Channel 7. While you cannot interact with the board while you're through those mediums, you'll be able to still be able to listen to the meeting.
Great
if that
points.
is at all helpful.
Yeah, great points. Thank you. And thanks for the comment. Thanks for letting us know. Okay, if there's no other public input, we'll move to approval of the minutes, and we have one set of minutes for January 16th. Were there any corrections to those minutes? And if not, I will take a motion to approve.
This is Patty, so moved.
And is there a second?
Uzumari, second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 And any opposed, say no. All right, thank you. So we will move to authorities, boards, and commissions reports. Up first is our Center Area Transportation Authority report with Ms. Lang. If there was anything additional you'd like to present on that report. If not, I believe we had one enclosed, perhaps? No, nothing else? Okay, if there was nothing else on that. Okay. And we will move forward to special reports and acknowledgements. Under diversity, equity, and inclusionary activities and acknowledgements, we have Black History Month. This month, Lunar New Year is Saturday, February 10th. President's Day is February 19th. And we'll move to our DEIB practices workshop for municipal officials was held, and we'll have a report from Mr. Thompson.
Yes, so Mr. Patterson and I attended a DEIB practices workshop for municipal officials. Got to discuss with, I think, all but one of the Center Region municipalities was there. Talked about various issues in our communities, and also got to discuss how we integrate DEIB practices in our municipalities. I know we had a few people asking us about our coffee and conversation, like, oh, how does that work? And so got to share some issues, but also share what all we've done. And like I mentioned in the group, what we've done 2 of them tonight. We did the proclamations, and we also have the calendar that we go over in each meeting. So.
Thank you. All right, thank you for sharing that. Anything to add?
Oh, yes. I think the B in DEIB is very important. It's like making sure that the people that are here in the township feel like they belong. And we just heard an example of that, where somebody's been here for 35 years is saying, wow, thanks for acknowledging this thing that I've been celebrating my whole life. So we're doing a good job, and as Jeremy mentioned, others are asking us how we're doing it, what we're doing, and so let's keep leading the way. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you both for sharing that.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move to COG and regional committee reports. Up first is executive committee.
Okay, we went all the way down. I do believe I presented that report in the last meeting. Basically, everything that we discussed was also discussed during general forum. So I have nothing further to add unless there's any questions.
Questions? Not seeing any. Okay, up next was Land Use and Community Infrastructure Committee. Not too much to add to the agenda. There was a discussion of the planner position that's being hired, and maybe some tweaks to that, maybe looking for a less senior planner, more of a maybe somebody new coming out of the school looking for a first or second job. So some discussion of that, and then a lot of discussion on the comprehensive plan, which is ongoing. And if there's no questions on that, we'll go to Parks and Recreation Governance Committee.
Thank you. So I put my report in the agenda, and the one takeaway that I'd like to plant a seed for you all to consider is any of your thoughts on communication between parks and the general forum, and actually even here in Ferguson, and how we communicate specifically with our authority rep. So just sort of your thoughts on that, because in the Parks Governance Committee, you saw the matrix that was in the agenda, and that is, all of this is sort of predicated on the authority staying as the body that it is now. And the best way that we can utilize that and to get the best services, there had been some talk about taking away the Parks Capital Committee, and what you might think should go in its place in terms of communication to the general forum. Is it something that could be done by facilities or finance? So that had been the initial discussion in the committee, that maybe Parks Capital Committee could go away and the responsibilities could sort of be absorbed by facilities and by finance. I sort of pushed back on that in the sense that I didn't really think that was what we initially had developed facilities for. So I thought the Facilities Committee was more of an oversight and taking care of what we had. And then finance, I'll refer to your report from last week where you said the Finance Committee had sort of said, well, we really don't want everything to come to finance and finance to be doing programmatic stuff that, But, so if there's another way, and I'll sort of say that in my mind, I've been trying to think, even though Parks is a huge part of the budget for COG, as is the fire and Alpha Fire, et cetera. And so we have a public safety committee. So I still sort of think that there is a need for some sort of an oversight, and that's just my 2 cents, but just to kind of get you all going and thinking in terms of what you see for the Parks Committee and communication to the general forum. So, and maybe I think on our next agenda, if there's anything and you have any comments, or if not, you can even just let me know one-on-one, shoot me an email, or if it's something you'd rather discuss, we can get it on the next agenda. Okay, that's all I have.
Thanks, and thanks for all the information in here so that we can kind of prepare. That's probably maybe the best way to move forward with it, is to bring it back as a discussion item for next meeting, so we all know what to be prepared to discuss. So I think that makes sense, and that will give you just more to work with when you go back to that next meeting too.
Yes, I would greatly appreciate that. I mean, you all feel that, you know, you go to a committee meeting and you feel like you're Ferguson Township speaking on behalf of Ferguson Township. And sometimes it would be nice to have more opinions and input.
Exactly, and especially with something like this, where you're kind of taking some steps back and trying to figure out policy and procedures here for this, I think that's worth devoting a little bit of time next meeting to, and now we know
Great.
to be prepared. Any other questions on that report? No, and then we wanted to go to Matt. You had a report on a finance meeting.
Yeah, we actually had our first finance working session. So the first one ever, as I understand it, where we did it out of cycle to say to get to public, hey, let's go ahead and actually do some work and get us thinking about things differently before we get back to the table for our normal monthly meeting, which is happening this Thursday morning. So a couple things that we talked about: timelines, some pain points that maybe staff experienced, as well as municipalities may have experienced through the last cycles that we did in the finance area. So we talked about that, ClearGov, its use, some guidelines, et cetera, and maybe potential impacts to contribution changes that we all need to be aware of, or at least at the front of everything that we think about. And when I say this, part of the concern and what I'm, reiterating here, and what I think my counterparts in the different townships are also bringing back to their townships, I should say, is the idea that we really have to kind of tighten the belt in each of the committees that we are representing. Because last year there was, things that kind of came in throughout the year, additions, et cetera, that caused the budget to balloon. And again, I just want to say that from the finance perspective, we're really looking at tightening the belt. We just want to reiterate that with folks, that please, with your individual committees, let's see what we can do to keep things a little bit more lean than we have them in the past. So that was a discussion topic. We also had some takeaways where the COG was going to be putting together for the first time kind of a Gantt chart view of what the expectation is for the municipalities and others throughout the year for the CIP and for the budget. So I know in the past they've done kind of an Excel spreadsheet and said, well, here's the action item and here's the date that it's due and here's some timeframes. But I know that for me that wasn't really making a lot of sense without seeing it in something that would be what, as I would describe, a one-pager. Show me an image of what we would expect for, township input, what the outputs are, et cetera, in the timeline, so that at least it gives folks something that we can sink our teeth into, say, oh, at this point in the calendar year, we would expect this. And then this is what the deliverable is that we have coming out of it, back to COG, et cetera, really outlining that process. So we're going to see, I believe, a preliminary draft this Thursday of what that would look like, and then some feedback that would happen within finance that hopefully then I can take back here to our group and say, hey, it's in an agenda, now we can at least see it visually, what's coming up and what's going around. So there was that, and another part too, back to, again, kind of that tightening of the belt mentality, is that there was a discussion around the facilities committee identifying something what we would call like keep the lights on budget. What is the absolute minimum the facilities committee would require to go ahead and keep the lights on. So I understand that it has to go through different COG committees first before that comes back, but that is something that is going to be proposed through the other channels too. So that was it as a highlight. I'm sorry that didn't get in. That was a Friday morning meeting, so that wasn't going to make it to this agenda. But I want to let you know, in preparation for our meeting coming up this Thursday, that you'll hear some of those topics again.
Thanks for that report on the workshop. Questions on that?
It just makes the year sound very optimistic. I know I had expressed some concerns that I had with the budget last year, and it sounds like we're kind of getting back on a good footing, that hopefully we won't see as drastic of a budget increase this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, comments? I think, really stressing the timeline of when these different review periods are for the municipalities. I know for us, we always take time in our agenda to go through the CIP, the program plan, and the budget, and send back constructive comments about, suggestions, what to cut, where to move things around, and if whatever can be done to facilitate more time being spent on those municipal comments, I think would alleviate some of the pressures that we all saw at the end of the year at the general forum meeting when there was not support for the budget. So I think, really addressing the comments that the municipalities give.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'll take that back on Thursday to reiterate that. And I am working with Kimberly on the Gantt chart views itself. So we have, I believe, we talked about approving the idea of, hey, this timeline looks okay for us from last year. But again, if there is something like this where we would like a little bit more time, I'll take that back on Thursday. We'll have the conversation.
And the time may be fine, because I know we got everything back in, but it really, absorbing what the municipalities say and trying to incorporate what suggestions were made back in, I think is maybe what was missed a little bit last year. So, I know that last year and the year before, the timeline was moved up. So there's still some growing pains with that, trying to adjust all along the way to moving that up. So I'm sure that's still happening. So thank you for that. Great. Okay, if there's no other questions, we will move on to other committee reports, and we have a report from the Spring Creek Watershed Commission. And with us this evening, we have Elise Johnson, who is the AmeriCorps person at Spring Creek Watershed Commission, and I'd invite you to come on up to the podium.
Hello, everybody. My name is Elise Johnson. I just graduated from Penn State this past December with a bachelor's in science and a minor in wildlife fisheries sciences. I grew up in Half Moon Township, and I'm excited to be the new AmeriCorps member for the Spring Creek Watershed Commission and help to expand our outreach initiatives within the 12 municipalities that make up the Watershed Commission. I have a desk up in Building 6 next to Chris Letty, so if you have any questions, please reach out to me or visit our website, scwc.org. Thank you so much for welcoming me into this space, and I look forward to working with the Watershed and all of our townships and municipalities.
Thank you so much.
And Kevin Abbey, our Spring Creek Watershed Commission treasurer and fellow Ferguson Township resident, is joining on Zoom. So he's here to support us as well.
Thank you. We'll ask Kevin if you have anything to add to the report that was included.
No, nothing to add to the report. We're happy to have Elise on board and very appreciative for the township having a workspace for her, and we're off to a good start. Our organizational meeting was the 17th of January, and my report's there that details the roster of the municipal members that serve on the Watershed Commission, and we're raring to go. I guess the only thing I might add, Lisa, is that November 20th will be Watershed Cleanup Day. That's a big event, and from 8 to noon, And then also, the Watershed Commission is planning an event on March 28th, Thursday, from 10 a.m. in the morning through lunch that will end at 1, called State of the Watershed, where we're going to bring together members, municipal staff, and talk about what is the condition of Spring Creek, and just get to know each other better as we start the year 2024.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Elise. Thanks for coming this evening. Thank you, Kevin. I enjoyed my first meeting, sitting in, and so interesting. There was a lot to learn, but it's exciting. So that was, I really enjoyed that and appreciated everybody's contributions to that organization. So thank you again, and thank you to Kevin. All right. There's no questions for Elise or Kevin. We will move on to staff reports and the manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Provided with the agenda is a copy of the manager's report, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for the manager? Not seeing any. Thank you for your report. And next we have the Public Works Director's report.
Good evening. I'd just like to call your attention to 2 items. Before tonight's meeting, we had an open house for 2 projects, 2 capital projects, the Science Park Sandy Drive intersection improvement project that folks were excited to hear about, and paving of a section of Nixon Road. So we'll incorporate, any input, complete the final design. We expect to get both those projects out to bid by the end of this month. Secondly, within the packet, I just want to call your attention to the first item. I have some information on the regional solar power purchase agreement. It really is includes links, and there is, if I know some of you attended one of the workshops. There's another workshop tomorrow from 5 to 6 at the Center Region Council of Governments building, and there's some other educational links in there. I know the manager has some information planned in upcoming board meetings, so I didn't plan to go into any detail, just let you know that there's information there in the packet. And that's all I had to report.
Great. Questions for Public Works? Yes, go ahead.
Yes. So thanks for your report, sir. And I think my only ask is on the solar power purchase agreement that at least Ferguson Township, we're making sure our residents get the kind of simplistic, in a box version of what this thing is to us.
Sure.
And that is just a second electricity bill. That's it, right? Like a very simple, hey, well, there's a bunch of stuff, there's some contractual language, a lot of detail from developers that we're working with right now. Once all that stuff's worked out, in a year or so, we're gonna get a second electricity bill for solar. So I just wanna make sure we're doing that. I had some questions, which I'll talk about later in community forum. So that's it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. Thanks for including that information in there. And like Dave said, we'll have that on an upcoming agenda, and that's a great point to really be able to distill down what's important to take away from those discussions. So thank you for that. I'll look to the manager if you had anything to add on that. No.
I believe the workshop that is scheduled for tomorrow is provided. Information is provided by Pam Adams, and all municipal staff and elected officials are encouraged to attend. If looking for a better understanding of the details, and it's my understanding she's also working to try and break down a simplistic message to make available for our residents.
Great, thank you. Okay. All right, we'll appreciate that. Okay, so we will move to unfinished business. First up is a public hearing on an ordinance of the Township of Ferguson, Center County, Pennsylvania, to repeal the Regional Human Relations Commission Ordinance number 1085 and replace it with proposed ordinance 1094, the Regional Human Relations Commission. Go to the manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Provided in the agenda packet, I believe, is a narrative, and there was more of a narrative provided at a previous meeting. In short, the amendment to the Ferguson Township's anti-discrimination ordinance and as well as the Human Relation Commission ordinance were introduced at the previous meeting in January for review and discussion. The amendments address conflicts between the ordinances and make some minor editorial revisions to clarify the procedures and authorization for investigating and resolving the complaints. And so this evening, the board is asked to hold the public hearing and take action on the ordinance.
All right, thank you. And this is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing for comments on this item. If there are any comments on this item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
This is Omari. I move that the Board of Supervisors repeal Ordinance 1085 and adopt the amended Ordinance 1094, Regional Human Relations Commission.
Thank you. Is there a second?
This is Patty, I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on this?
The only question I had was reporting back to the township, because it sort of said that after there was assigned, I can't remember the language, that there was a signed agreement that the issue had been resolved, no further action was taken, but I didn't know if there was some way to report back to the municipality that it had been resolved, or is that not anything that needs to come back to the municipality for our records?
We will have copies of all of the action items that are resolved or addressed and resolved through the commission. Okay. And that generally will, I would say, it'll always be communicated to staff. And so an update like that would certainly be something that your manager, in this case me at this time, would be the person that would be able to provide an update. Perfect. On the matter once resolved.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
Actually, I'm just going to ask, I can keep leaning forward like there's a microphone here. Anyway, let me sit back for a moment. Okay. A little PTSD. So, you know, when I read the ordinance with Human Relations Commission designed to help protect people within the jurisdictions from negative, direct, or secondary effects of discriminatory practices, I'm curious, and just to help me understand, where does this fit into things like the state laws, federal laws against discrimination, everything else? I just don't have that clear picture as to where and how this fits in, because it's a process that we manage here internally, but who else from the state or federal gets involved with something like this? Because to me, this seems to be more aligned to practices that they might have already. So I'm just, again, trying to figure out when this is applied and how.
Yes, I'm happy to provide a general overview. The solicitor is unavailable this evening. She attended the last meeting, but I will certainly be able to provide a general understanding of the process. So the resident would have the option to choose if they wanted to submit their experience, as it would have to be qualified under our anti-discrimination ordinance, of course, and they would be able to submit a complaint through the Regional Human Relations Commission, or they would have the option to submit it through the PHRC, the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission. Mm-hmm. The acronyms, yeah, that sounds right. And so the policy certainly dictates that they would choose one track or the other. Mm-hmm. And once they've submitted that, if they chose to submit through Ferguson Township, then it would go through the process here through our HRC. If they chose to go through the state, then we would not be involved or engaged. That help distinguish between, because there is an option, and it's ultimately up to the resident, unless if they submit a complaint that's just not within our jurisdiction as identified within our anti-discrimination ordinance, which is why this was, I don't want to call it a heavy lift, but it was a great deal of coordinated effort. I think the township has been working on this ordinance since 2019. And we adopted it successfully last year. This is just an amendment that we needed to do to eliminate the conflict with the dual complaint process that was initially in the ordinance.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. May I ask a follow-up? Okay, then my next question is, and how are we communicating this then to the public?
It's a great question.
Yeah, to really say that we have this and this is something that we can help with.
So I will share with you, there are a great number of advocacy groups that certainly kind of word of mouth as folks are engaging in these types of, issues or have concerns. In fact, I believe one of our regional municipalities have already fielded 1 or 2 complaints as a result of the new ordinance. State College Borough always had an anti-discrimination ordinance, and there were some amendments to integrate in some of the items that we did regionally. But Patton Township initiated this ordinance at the same time that we did, as the first time having an anti-discrimination ordinance, and then, putting forth this Human Relation Commission. Also, I would comment to your question, which has escaped me, I apologize. Oh goodness, your question was?
Just how are we communicating this out so people are
Thank
aware
you.
that they
Right.
have this avenue?
Yes, and so I will share with you, our newly hired human resource director actually is in the process of building out a human resource webpage that will be accessed from our landing page, our website homepage. And as part of that, now we'll have a human resource landing page that anyone that's, if you go to Ferguson Township and say, I'm having concerns, where do I go? There'll be somewhere, whether it be the circle tab or it be one of the what we call a mega menu item at the top where it says government or community. So one of those options, something very viewable and easy to identify. And then once you land on that human resource page, not only will we have employment, but we'll also list our, the anti-discrimination ordinance and the human relation commission ordinance for folks to be able to explore those ordinances, determine if it's an item that they would like to pursue, and then have access to, then click to jump to the website for a submission of a complaint.
No, thank you for that, because again, it's one thing to have an ordinance that is so important. It's something else to be able to navigate to it and know that it exists, to be able to use it. So
I agree.
that's something I was curious about.
Great question.
Okay, great, thank you. That was it.
Any other discussion on this? Okay, we have a motion and a second, and this is a roll call vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a roll call vote for ordinance number 1093. Ms. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
Leaning back, yes.
Mr. Patterson?
Yes.
Ms. Strickland?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The vote passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Okay, we'll move to a public hearing on an ordinance of the Township of Ferguson, Center County, Pennsylvania to repeal the anti-discrimination ordinance number 1084 and replace it with proposed ordinance 1095, an ordinance to ensure anti-discrimination, and we'll go back to the manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Similarly, as noted in the previous item, amendments to the Ferguson Township anti-discrimination ordinance were introduced to the board at the previous meeting held in January for review and discussion. The amendments address primarily, as it pertains only to the anti-discrimination, to the Section 10 penalties and Section 11 multiple filings. So we kind of addressed that in that one question previously from Mr. Supervisor Heller. Other than that, the ordinance remains in effect as it was adopted last year.
All right, thank you. And this is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing for comments on this item. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
This is Matt. I'll make a motion that the Board of Supervisors repeal ordinance number 1084 and adopt proposed ordinance number 1095, anti-discrimination ordinance.
Okay, is there a second?
Uzumari, second.
Thank you. All right, discussion on this item? Not seeing any. Okay, if there is, did you have, no. Okay, if there is no discussion, this is a roll call vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a roll call vote for ordinance number 1094. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Heller?
Yes.
Mr. Patterson?
Yes.
Ms. Strickland?
Yes.
Ms. Stevens?
Yes.
1095, right?
1095, ordinance 1095. Thank you. Madam Chair, you have a unanimous vote.
Thank you. Okay, we will move to new business. First up is the consent agenda. Did anyone need to remove anything for discussion? Not seen, yes.
I think so. if I may, it was item E. Just wanted to get a little bit more background on that, if that's okay. It wasn't
We
anything.
will remove item E and we'll place that up for discussion right after approval of the rest of the consent agenda.
Thank you.
So, sure, anything else to be removed for discussion? And seeing nothing, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item E?
This is Mara, so moved.
Oh, this is Patty, I'll second, sorry.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, thank you. So we will now discuss approval of donation request from Ferguson Township area senior citizens. You can,
Yeah, and this was just more of I wanted to understand kind of our generic, what is this? I mean, I know in my past watching the videos, we give some dollars to organizations that make a request. And we have it's budget dust, if you will, but it is kind of something, I wanted to kind of think through. Is this something that's a good thing to do every year? Is this kind of a thing that we want to kind of continue to be in the business of? This kind of philanthropic arm of the township, and maybe a little bit of history, if you, for those of you that have been on for a long time and have been doing this for the entire existence, since the 70s, or has this been a more recent thing? Over.
this particular one or the donations?
The donations writ large.
Right, so, okay, so I'll ask the manager to speak to the donations section of the budget.
Yes, that's a good question. So the township has had a policy in effect since 2012. It was revised in 2019. The policy in 2012, I can't recall all of the details, but essentially it just supported and maintained an approach where if members of our community ask for a donation, generally it was considered by the manager. I believe the revision in 2019, well, I should be able to recall. I believe it was an interesting process. It was one of my first committee. The manager at the time had designated me to serve with 2 board members to revise the policy, and so we reviewed and proposed updates to the board. And what I recall really coming out of that update that's now in effect is that any donation request under the amount of 500 or more would go and be considered by the manager and go on for a consent agenda. Anything over $500, it gets presented to the Board of Supervisors for a discussion, for the board to more formally take action with deliberate and intentional conversation to determine if the event or the organization is indeed what this board would like to appropriate funds over the amount of 500. I will, the part of the policy also requires that the donation form is submitted within a specific number of days, essentially, so there's ample time to get it in time for that upcoming agenda Board of Supervisors meeting. And we do receive requests outside of what's already considered budgeted. So there's generally somewhere between $5,000 to $10,000 in the budget. I can't recall the exact number, so I'm giving quite a bit of a range. But if memory serves me right, it's probably a little less than 7,000. But we'll stick with 5,000 to 10,000. And what you'll find are the items that the appropriation $5,000 to $10,000 is for continued ongoing requests since I've been here. So one example is the Ferguson Township Senior Center, senior citizens. They routinely, since I've started, have always asked, and I think the budget would show in the remarks that this is a organization that routinely comes to the township for a donation of $500. Another routine organization that comes to the township that's listed as funds in the community donation section of our operating budget. I think it's approximately $1,000 of funds that are appropriated and earmarked for Fourth Best, for example. So those are 2 examples that come to mind. So to answer your question, yes, we've definitely earmarked funds in a specific account labeled, I believe, community donations. And then there's a very small amount, maybe 2,000, and please don't quote me. I can certainly look this up. But again, there's for this one account for community donations, there's between 5,000 and 10,000. Of that 5,000 and 10,000, there's earmarked funds that we routinely give funds to. And then there's a smaller amount of funds within that same account that's available for some non-anticipated community donation request. I think that the board certainly is in a position to consider reevaluating this policy, which, we could do, as time permits, if that's something the board would like to do. But I would consider that if we, that we may very well want to provide an update to this organization if we take action inconsistent of what we've done previously in previous years.
Yeah, and this is good. Thank you for the update. It was just more of it's
helpful.
I'm the
It
newer
makes
person
sense.
trying to get some more information, and so I think maybe at a minimum, if we put these things in a newsletter about kind of some of these philanthropic things that we do and some of the outcomes, because it sounds like what you're saying is, oh, we give money to Fourth Fest. Well, lots of Ferguson residents go to Fourth Fest, so this is a thing that benefits. It's supporting an event that our residents go to. Okay, let's make sure everybody knows about it. That hey, go to that thing that we've kind of helped support, and might be a good thing to do going forward. Over. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Question. Sorry, is this donation fund the fund that we use also for like the money we gave to Port Matilda EMS? Doesn't that come from this donation fund?
Yeah, I think that was under the same.
So the board has done there's been two different approaches that have been taken over time. So there's a community donation request account where we have, essentially an appropriation, and then within the comment section, we've just identified routine organizations that have come to the township and said, we're doing this event and we'd like support from the municipalities. Generally, Ferguson Township supporting events for this account that all the other municipalities are also contributing some type of donation. But specifically to the Center Life Link, that is a separate line item in our budget, just like the Pine Grove Mill the farmers market is a separate line item. So in the past, previous boards have taken action to say that we're dedicating, as part of our economic development initiatives, we're dedicating money. And so there's a very specific line item with its own account for, what was your example? I'm sorry, Patty.
Port Matilda.
Port Matilda EMS, for example.
I think it was under there at some point and it got moved over to, yes, I think yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I think there were a lot of items in 2019, 2020 that ended up getting pulled out. And when I say a lot, I should really identify like 1 to 2, maybe 2 to 3 that got pulled out of what was previously in this chunk of appropriated funds and then moved out into a line item. So it had its own dedicated budgetary amount that the board could change annually.
Thank you.
All right, good questions. Any other questions on this? And if not, I'll take a motion to approve this item.
If I may, just to confirm,
Yes.
we will be discussing this because it's on the consent agenda at the next meeting, right? We're not talking about the donation right now specifically for the citizens group.
Yeah, this is approval of the donation.
Okay.
500 or less.
Well, then if I may, I just want to say that I absolutely support this organization. I have been one of the attendees, as well as Chief Petrick, as you can see from the list. It is a great organization. The senior citizens, they get around in the Presbyterian Church in Pine Grove Mills. They bake foods, they cook things, they bring it in, and they just want fellowship. And it is truly something that you sit back and you say, this is what we should be encouraging. And I love it. So that is my 2 cents.
Madam Chair, since I asked to talk about this more, I move that we approve.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. All right, thank you. Okay, good discussion. We will move to authorization for advertisement of a public hearing on amending the Code of Ordinances of the Township of Ferguson Center County, Pennsylvania, Chapter 15, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Part 2, Traffic Regulations, Section 214, Stop Intersections Established. And we'll go to Public Works Director Dave Modricker.
So the township was requested to review the operation of 2 stop-controlled intersections, namely Cherry Lane and Allen Street and Fox Point Drive and Pine Hall Road. In particular, at Cherry Lane and Allen Street, the only change would be the addition of a stop except right turn sign on the eastbound approach of Cherry Lane at Allen to clarify that vehicles that do not turn right onto Allen have to stop. At Fox Point Drive and Pine Hall Road, so the operation of that intersection would change. So currently, Pine Hall Road has a stop sign, and there's no control on Fox Point Drive. So this change would remove the stop from Pine Hall Road and install a stop except right turn on northbound Fox Point Drive, and a stop sign on what looks like a private road, because it is, which would be Fox Point Drive coming south. So that sign arrangement would remain until such time as Fox Point Drive got extended, and then that would be reevaluated and probably look more like it does now. And that was the request that we received, and that is what was borne out in the traffic engineering study that the township engineer performed. While he was reviewing and revising a draft ordinance, he noticed two other locations that need, I'll just say, cleaned up. West Gatesburg Road and Rhodes Farm Lane, West Ridge Road. There's signage that exists, but it was not ordained. So the draft ordinance in front of you ordains the stop controlled intersection at that location. And there's one other intersection that no longer exists, as you may know, and that would be North Coral Road and Teaberry Lane. So that was removed many years ago when the Coral Street got turned over and Atlee Circle got built. And so that provides a narrative. There is a location map in the packet and a recommended motion for the board.
All right, thank you so much. And I'll ask for a motion.
Yes, Madam Chair, I was going to ask, I'd like to stop and make a motion that the Board of Supervisors move to authorize an advertisement for a public hearing to adopt a draft ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Zamora, second.
Okay, discussion on this.
I just want to, can we just second the motion and not that really bad joke?
I will say I do miss the cut through at Coral Street, but that's years ago. Anyway,
We all do. We all do.
Yeah.
Other comments?
This history question for me, how does this happen where we kind of get the stop sign and now we're having to go up? No one's driving around. They're like, we don't need that, stop except right. I mean, I'm glad we're cleaning it up, but how does it happen where we don't get that kind of right the first time? Just curious.
I don't know. It's not supposed to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not the norm. I don't know when that would have been installed, but any stop sign that's put up is to be ordained. Yeah, with a traffic study, as well as any speed limit sign or other signs that we have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Thanks for all the information that was included in the packet. That was so thorough. It was very easy to look through all of that and understand it all. All right, if there's no other comment on this, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, say no. All right, thank you. We will go to communications to the board. Any communications to share? We can start over here. Nope.
I had communications regarding the workforce housing ordinance, funding for Port Matilda EMS, trailer parks, catabus service. Got a good remark this evening about the audiovisual enhancements. And I had just got a communication regarding the East Park Hills Avenue entrance signs and who maintains those.
Okay. Any other communications?
I also have communication on CATA as well as workforce housing and development that was discussed previously.
Very good. Anything else?
We don't elaborate on some of these things. We just say what.
I mean, if there is something.
Okay, I'm elaborating. Well, a couple things. Somebody mentioned to me today the CRPR Winter Carnival. Is this coming Saturday at Blue Springs Park?
Okay.
3 o'clock. It was a communication on the CAT. It was a thank you that they're going to extend that service
Yes.
officially. coming soon. So thanks for our manager for getting CATA here and for folks getting online. I mean, this is how it works, and I hope similar outcomes happen at Bellefonte as a result of kind of the same, listening session that's happened there and folks taking action. There were questions about the solar power purchase agreement, and my ask about making it simple was born from that communication that I received from a couple of folks after our last meeting. So let's just really put it in a nice box, and I know we can let people zone out on the details, but really give them that kind of one-liner on here's what it is. And then there were some questions about workforce housing. Some folks contacted me, not happy with my vote, but I just told them, hey, we will get updates to that amendment eventually. I think I'd like to see it in a form that will be at least okay. Everyone will be at least okay with it. And, that's where we need to be in my opinion. Everybody's okay. And that is the extent of outreach that I received. Thank you.
Thanks. And
It's kind of interesting, that winter event this weekend, it might actually be 60 degrees, and we're calling it a winter event.
Yeah. Good. And I received the same CATA communications, first concerns about the cuts in service on Bristol, and then an appreciation for the restoration, at least through August, I think, of those some of those routes. So appreciate that, and all of the residents who turned out to speak at that meeting a couple weeks ago on that. And we can move to calendar items. I did just want to note that the offices will be closed for President's Day on February 19th. And if there is nothing else, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.